Let's make some butter. So you can see I have a lot of markdown cream I've been collecting, and I was going to freeze some for meals, but we already have a couple in the freezer and we don't use cream-based meals very often. But butter we do because we like cakes and cookies and all the good stuff. So I actually did this in two different parts. The first part I did for a TikTok, and then that bit's at the end. This part I am doing as an experiment as well, because I'm curious to know if the lactose free will hold up on its own, because on the container it does actually say it's suitable for whipping and it won't split when it is at a high temperature, which I have found to be the case because I have cooked them also to make an ice cream and they've held well. They haven't split like cream sometimes does. So I'm really happy with them. So I thought that I would use the lactose-free creams to make butter and see how we go. So I'm using it's about 5 containers because there were a couple with just a bit in it. So it's just over a litre. And I'm using the big bowl whisk this time on my stand mixer, KitchenAid, whatever you want to call it, instead of the paddle that I normally use. And I put this on as a time lapse and it went a lot faster using the bowl whisk, 3 minutes and 13 seconds, than what it did with the paddle whisk. Whether that is also because it's a lactose-free cream and it doesn't have as much fats in it, I don't know. I couldn't see a fat percentage on the packet either because all the markdown stickers were covering a lot of the information. So as I said, this is just a bit of an experiment, but from what I'm seeing here, there's a lot of liquid, which I haven't had with the previous batches. So we're going to get it out and have a play around with it and we'll see how we go. So I'm pouring off the buttermilk, and what I'm actually going to do with this one is play around with it in parts. So I just end up scooping out a bit and then mixing it around in the sieve to see if I can get any excess buttercream out. And then I just end up putting some bits into a container, and yeah, I'm trying to just see what's going to work best. With the remainder, I end up putting it back on the Mixmaster with the paddle beater for another minute, if that, to see if I could bring it together a bit more and get out a bit buttermilk. It did work a little bit. There seemed to be a bit extra buttermilk that came out of it, but I think I'm just going to rely on mixing it around like I normally do. This lactose-free cream here, as you see the butter, it's moving around really quickly. It's really soft, and I think if I pushed it around way too much, it would just go through the holes in the sieve. I don't have a strainer bag or cloth like they talk about with butter, and I actually think that maybe with the lactose-free cream, as I said, because it's so soft, I think it might actually go through some of the cloth anyway. So I'm just doing best I can. Saving all the little bits that I can as well. So here's the second bowl that I've just rinsed under cold water, and I was just worried about how much butter I might lose, so I didn't probably wash it as much as what I will, but I am going to put these in the freezer so they'll harden up and we'll be able to see how they are. And then I also washed the buttermilk that was in the container as well. I'm just using a spoon now to scoop it onto the weight, and I put them into batches of 250 grams each. So here is the finished. I've got a 160 gram block and then two 250 gram blocks. I'm writing lactose free in here because when I make some biscuits, I will do that as a first test experiment to see how they go. So I've got about 750 mils of buttermilk. So I will use some of that for pancakes and a cake and maybe some scones. I nearly don't have any cream left to put on top of scones. Hilarious, I know. So here is the first 4 containers that I did on a TikTok because I was just doing shorts to show people how to make butter. And I had priced out for the 4 ones. It was $3.28 for that cream, and it made 2 blocks. One 250 grams and one was 210, and there's about 600 mils of buttermilk. So again, pretty good. Nearly 2 blocks of butter for under the cost of one, so I'm pretty happy. And I was stopping and starting to sort of show the progress of it coming together. I went to do that with this one, but it came together so fast using the ball whisk. So I was like, oh, and then it was together before I knew it. So as you can see, it was a lot harder and be easier to work with. And then here is what I was left with, the end result. The buttermilk I've put into separate containers as well. They're going to go in the fridge. So here's all the butter I've got in the freezer, and then the buttermilk that's there. And if I don't end up using it all tomorrow, then I'll freeze the leftover buttermilk and use it down the track. If you've ever made butter before, let me know, because yeah, this was an experiment. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.